to approve the 2013-2014 budget. Everyone should have received a copy of this last week. Today I gave you a couple of changes that have been made. You do have the overall budget, which is what we are adopting, the 4 sheets that include all the general fund and several different funds. The changes that you'll notice when you look at this, I did include the license inspector as far as the cost and the revenue. I included the additional revenue to cover that, as we expect that to pay for itself and hopefully be a revenue positive for us. And then the other change you'll notice in the sheriff from the previous budget between the sheriff and the jail. All retiree insurance was budgeted in the sheriff's department before. We moved the obligation to the jail to belong to the jail, so you'll see a difference in numbers. That balance nets out also. So this is the final budget that we have with those changes. So before we proceed with this, I'll make a quick statement about it. I guess this budget that you have before you, as we've discussed it all at the budget hearings, it is an unbalanced budget. It is a deficit budget. We have revenues at $7,799,796.38, and expenses in the general fund at $8,705,273.71, which comes to a deficit of right around $900,000. We've looked at, we've been going through the budget hearings and trying to understand better where the county is financially, and I think after several months of balancing our accounts, we'll be able to understand our cash situation a little bit better. But looking at the revenues and expenditures, we believe this is where we really are. I don't think we should pass anything that goes in line anything different than where we believe that we are. We hope to see some changes to this made in the future, but we have to go from what we understand. Right now, this is what we understand as far as the budget goes. So with that, let's open it up for discussion on this and how we need to move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring an idea to the table. If we could borrow the money to pay our A-Trip obligations, that would free up enough cash to plug the hole in the difference. Had some discussion earlier. What does everybody else think about that? I mean, that gives us enough cash flow to plug the hole in there. Revenues not in balance with our expenditures.
I agree.
I'll be in favor of that.
Any other questions or comments on that? What we could do, is you're saying you think we need to do that in order to do this, right?
Yes.
So whenever the motion comes up, we need to include that, that we begin researching financing to cover the A-Trip cost. The goal, I think, as we've discussed in the budget hearings, and I believe this is the goal, this is where we stand. We're going to give this some time to understand this budget a little bit better, knowing that either we will have to increase the revenues over time or we'll have to decrease our expenses to the tune of that $900,000. Obviously, we need to understand our cash situation a little bit better, and I think the A-Trip idea is a good one in order to get us through this year. But we know that we have to have a zero balance budget. The county's been working off in a sense, deficit budget by spending more than it's been taking in for the past several years. And we can't continue to do that. We have to change the way that this has been done. However, I think it's the consensus at this point that we can't just immediately make the cuts without looking at some possible revenue sources and new revenue sources, and then understanding our cash situation a little bit better. So that's where we stand at this point in time. We'll continue to work hard on this budget to make it work for the county and to get it down to that zero balance budget that it needs to be, where revenues meet or exceed expenditures for the next fiscal year. Any other questions or comments on it? Do you have anything to add to the budget or kind of the financial aspect, Mr. Mann?
Not at this time, other than reconciliations that we're away and you sum that up.
Any questions or comments before we proceed to a vote or to a motion? So to proceed, we'll need a motion to adopt the budget as presented and you wanted to include the requirement that we also would pursue financing, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion to adopt the budget with that recommendation to move forward with looking for the financing for A-Trip. Do we have a motion to that extent?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion, second. Any further discussion on this item?
Let's look at borrowing from banks also when we're doing this, rather than just bonds, because I think banks right now are gonna be the cheapest way. Money's pretty cheap right now. Maybe we can look at doing something local.
Any other questions or comments?
We'll be able to service this debt through their 116 fund, which is capital improvement, which are not really a deficit on. Correct?
We'll be able to service the difference you're talking about, or service the debt, right, yeah. The debt would be serviced through 116. We can do that utilizing, since it's going to be for the A-Trip, to cover A-Trip costs, we can use 116 to do that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the budget with that contingency. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.